We have suffered a fundamental setback, and we analyze it and we see it among ourselves. It's written all over. EFF, DA, all small political parties combined did not defeat the ANC. Jacob Zuma did, coming out of the ranks of the African National Congress. Oliver Tambo was right. The ANC will never die. It will be the ANC that will kill itself from its ranks. And Zuma has done that in 2024. That's it.
Mr. Mbalula, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. I have been asking for an interview with you for how long, but finally it happens. There are a number of things, a plethora of situations or issues that we need to discuss, but I want us to focus more on what happened from the 29th of May until where we are now. You've been in this position for 18 months, 19 months now. Could not have been easy for you as the first Secretary General to transverse this kind of situation in the ANC. What was it like for you, Mr. Mbalula, when you started seeing the numbers, and you had your polls had already told you that you would dip below 50%, but when you started seeing the numbers, and the numbers were telling you that you would now have to start talking to the DA, what did that conversation start then, or had it already started?
Thank you very much for this opportunity and for having us. We started the discussion in earnest with political parties, not before, after. And they were confident that we're going to make it below 50%. I think we didn't we saw Zuma as a danger, but we didn't think that it will be as big as it is. Which is what has basically happened. We thought of dropping from 3 to 5%. At best, we'll get to between 52, 53. We'll still form government. Not 17%, all gone. And so the Zuma factor became a biggest issue. All political parties dropped in a low voter turnout. There are all sorts of factors that led to the voter turnout. The weather was good, the campaign was good, the period of campaigning was good. The low voter turnout during the week on a Wednesday, when we had an expectation that it will be bigger, was also something that affected us. But even in the low voter turnout, we're still confident that we'll garner about 8 million people to vote for us, and so on. But it did not actually happen. So we did not start discussing with anyone before, including the DA.
When you're making your own assessments, and I imagine that you've started making an assessment of what happened, how you got to 17% of your votes in a decrease. Do you only attribute it to the low voter turnout? What are other attributing factors? I ask this because even during the times of nominations by the branches, it wasn't as significant as one would have expected from the ANC. Was there a problem within the structures itself going into these elections?
We pushed very hard to get people enthused about the election to the point where on the day they will come out in numbers. We got good numbers in terms of volunteers on the ground, and we got good numbers and good crowds in terms of our events. We ran a smart campaign, which we knew at what point it must peak, and it did. I think the issue of political voter apathy due to factors in the economy have affected the general populace in our base in a big way. And you can see that to get that 5 million is not a child's play. It meant that we really had to dig deep into our reserves. We got a big support from our stalwarts. As much as Zuma left, we got a big endorsement from Tambo. So it will tell you where that 6 million come from. Otherwise, it would have been worse. Because we came into this election with a number of factors that counted against us. First, the mood in the country was not all good, but it did not favor the ANC as a ruling party. We had to deal with external factors and support to what we may characterize as regime change in South Africa. Quite emboldened, and a lot of resources and a lot of political parties were formed to get us below 50%. And also Zuma came with MKP, which then became a factor, but also the strategy he played and the tactic, I think that I'm still a member, it counted in his favor. He left with a lot of ANC people and ANC support, in particular in KwaZulu-Natal. You must remember that in 2009, when the ANC was dropping from 2/3 majority in 2004 from Tambo, 2009 Zuma became president, and then we had lost KZN in the elections, and then we had increased slightly to about 47% in 2004, 1 million votes from Natal we got. In 2009, the NFP was formed, and Jacob Zuma became the president of the ANC. KZN cushioned us with 2 million votes in our favor, and we got 65%. And Jacob Zuma became the president. So we then took KZN totally out of the hands of the IFP. And that factor played itself out in this election. With the departure of Isilo Samabandla, may his soul rest in peace, and Umdwana Utelezi, Zuma became a factor in KZN. IFP was not really a big challenge for us. The big challenge was Jacob Zuma as a factor that we've had to contend with. So nothing was there to cushion us, and that vote, 2.3 million, that 2 million left us and then went into the hands of Jacob Zuma, nowhere else. And then largely from pockets of Gauteng in the hostels, the IFP lost, and its numbers were reduced to 1 seat. And all those numbers went to Jacob Zuma party. And a part of Mpumalanga, Mkondo, went to Jacob Zuma party. So the Zuma factor in this election account for a splinter group in the ANC born out of inherent weaknesses, subjective of factionalism in the party. So it worked against us in this election. So that's the second factor. The first one, which I've mentioned, is economy. We had load shedding, and for the longest of time. We also had the cost of living, job creation. There's what I may characterize in the lack of better word, the stalemate of job creation in the Republic. Numbers of unemployed increased, so that dampened the spirit. Meaning, there is nothing that urged me to stand up and vote because I'm unemployed anyway, and the economy is not doing well. As much as we increased our social security net to look after the unemployed and the poor and all of that. But quite clearly, people want to do things for themselves. They want to work. They want to participate in the economy. Load shedding must go. And then a number of factors, the underperforming local government in terms of service delivery. When we went to houses, people opened their homes for us left and right, but they acknowledged that in the past 30 years, a lot of improvements have been made, but they continue to complain and to cry about local government completely demobilized. So when the numbers did not come up as we would have expected, it was quite clear that those factors did count against us in a big way.
You've steered me towards former President Jacob Zuma, and I was going to go there later on, but since we are there now, one then wonders, Nobala, did you underestimate his influence? I'm talking before December 16th, in that former President Jacob Zuma had a very fractured relationship with the top seven. There were even talks that, he was blue ticking you specifically, and your DSG, Unomvula Mokonyane, and that you had not, in fact, the KZN PC had campaigned on the ticket that it would support former President Jacob Zuma, but it did not during his times with these challenges with the courts. Do you think there was an underestimation of his influence in the country and an estimation of his influence in KZN and even with your own members?
No, we knew that Zuma is a factor all time. I mean, that's why at the platform of the national conference, I did speak to him directly and said it's about time that we talk. I followed up with him, both in terms of asking to see him, sending emissaries and also writing a letter to him, and he avoided me. And then I sent Mdu to go to KZN. I was going out of the country. Quite clearly, we gathered intelligence that this MK party belongs to Zuma. We worked very hard to undermine its existence because it was going to confuse the voters. It comes directly from us in terms of our history and our heritage, and something that was still challenging even now. But it was too close to the election, and it simply pepped Zuma up. Quite a risky factor. But it's quite clear that Jacob Zuma attempted to become another animal, and he knew that him coming in as a leader, he was closing a void, in particular in KwaZulu-Natal. And he used that against us in the name of fighting the Ramaphosa and EC. So we have always known, even in the last election, when we analyze in local government the 46%, there was Shembe Church there. There was royalty in that analysis. There was as well Jacob Zuma factor. So Jacob Zuma factor in relation to the riots, Jacob Zuma in terms of him being arrested and a victim, in a way. So that undermined the hegemony of the ANC. Jacob Zuma himself participated in the campaign and said that people must not hate the ANC. If it's Lima Zuma, I quote him, says why uzawuyeka ANC because of Lima Zuma, vote for the ANC. So he changed now, and it's only him and him only who knows what is his gripe, which he has explained against the president and all sorts of things that he basically said, which we disagree with him fundamentally with some of those things.
Would you facilitate a conversation between the two leaders?
We have done that. I think it is way beyond now. We're living in a new environment and terrain in which it has happened, and I'm happy this election is over because the reality and the truth has come out. We know what we are dealing with. It was a difficult election, as it was characterized. It is the difficult campaign. We know the weaknesses and what we need to do to get out of this particular situation. So a lot has been said, but it's all said and done now. It's water under the bridge. We need to prepare the organization to be formidable politically, to master the terrain and these uncharted waters, and go forward and win the war at the end of the day.
Let's talk about this preparation to be formidable and master the terrain. I imagine that would be a mammoth task for you, particularly in KZN, given that most of your members were co-opted into the MK party and some still are being co-opted into the MK party. Would you have to do a complete overhaul? And I think you know what that means. That would mean a disbandment of the entire structure and start from scratch. What does that mean?
We know now who belongs to MK,
okay,
and who has been fooling us in the process. Some of the information we had, but we deliberately took a stance of not pushing people out. But some of them came out, and they declared their colors to the mast. We are here. They've left the ANC. But MK party is nothing without Zuma, with due respect. We went to a by-election. MK party, 14 by-elections in KZN, they got one. Majority went to the IFP, we became number 2. Because the by-election was about the contestation of the wards. You have the emblem MK party, but the face is the person in your ward, and the result was different. The wards that we lost 2 weeks back, we won them now with the ANC. So people went to the and you don't have to blame it on anyone. People went to the elections with the t-shirts and the face of Ramaphosa as the president of the ANC, and then they went inside there and told electoral officers that we are voting for the ANC of Msholo inside. And then they came out singing our songs, our regalia, our slogans. But they said, iyafana lento. But we vote for what we like. Thina sithanda i-ANC kaMsholos. So we know the truth now, what it means. So Jacob Zuma must steer the ship. It's going to be difficult for him to establish MK into a party. It's going to disintegrate because they're first going to fight over positions like they do now, and it's going to degenerate because they don't have an ideology, they don't have a program of action. Everything they speak, they verbose is ANC.
Does that mean that your door is still open to those who have defected?
They will come back. The ANC only rejected the incorrigible. They will come back, like they have done already now. Others have come back to the party. And that's what is going to happen. And good luck to Zuma and his party, but it remains to be seen whether MK will become a formidable force in the body politic of South Africa. Because most of those people there have got, some of them, not good history, even in the ANC. And if you were to have any one of them to become the face and not Jacob Zuma, they wouldn't have garnered these numbers.
I suppose then what you're saying to me is that there's no reason to do a complete overhaul in KZN, to disband structures in KZN.
We don't have to disband structures in KZN because people who don't want to be in the ANC have left.
Okay.
And then there are very few sleepers who are still there in KwaZulu-Natal. But KZN, where it is now, is very clean. People who were destined to leave and were one way or the other affecting our party in terms of its growth negatively, have left with JZ. And others have been dismissed in terms of disciplinary action and all of that. We are a party in which I can say we're very clean now, and there's no need to be sniffer dogs and run a negative campaign against others, disbanding structures and all of that. All hands on deck. No more mistakes. An act of discipline is punishable. We must be decisive, and we are going to be. So, to get the ANC back on track, we must accelerate the renewal. That's what is important. The NEC, it will meet, make reflections, and take a deep dive in terms of what happened. Out of that, we need to reorganize, which is what we're already thinking about, and adapt the ANC to the new conditions at the present moment. The conditions of power sharing, the conditions of consolidating where we are in.